Okay, I think we're going to talk now about Weber, Fayol, and Follett. Okay, Weber developed this idea of bureaucracy, and it's the exercise of control from a desk, actually, or administrating from a desk is a root of bureaucracy. But one of the things that Weber was really interested in is how do we get a better functioning organization or whatever we're doing. And one of the problems that he faced is that he was German, and he was working with a bunch of people that were inherited their positions. They're royalty or they knew royalty. So it wasn't by virtue of their knowledge or their skill set, but by virtue of who they knew or who they were. And so this led to a lot of mismanagement. And so Weber was really interested in being more efficient in whatever we're doing. So let me move myself up there. And let's see if we can pop this up a little bit so you can see. So some of the principles that he's really trying to bring people to understand how important they are and how we need to change things to these bases, whatever you want to call them. We're trying to get out of this, and it still happens today. I worked for a guy who, when he was moving up in management, there was a team lead that really worked with him well. Even though he wasn't a good manager, when this guy became VP, he made that team lead into a manager and kept on promoting him when it wasn't appropriate. So when we are looking at who we hire, we don't hire on who they are, who their blood, who they know, but on qualification. This might sound like duh, right? We hire on qualification now, but at the time that wasn't as common as you might think. And we promote on merit. Like if you do well and you seem like you deserve a promotion, that's when we promote. Again, he's coming from this idea of kings and queens and the nobles and that type of thing. Chain of command. Each job occurs within a hierarchy, and there is a chain of command, and each position reports to the next higher position. And then there's a grievance procedure. Again, we might say, wow, of course, that's how business works. But again, this is, for Weber, this was new. Division of labor, who's responsible for who. Impartial application of rules and procedures. So if I'm going to dock one person for being late and I don't dock the other one, the one that got docked for being late can sue me now. Then you could apply favoritism all you wanted. But it undermined motivation, it caused distress, and it caused inefficiencies. Right? That's why we want to be impartial. Recording and writing. All administrative decision, acts, rules, and procedures will be recorded in writing. What's funny is I've worked in companies and on boards where they don't do this. Even in our department meetings, we make decisions and acts and rules, and they haven't necessarily been recorded in writing. And that's one of the things that we're getting better at. And managers separate from owners. Well, so we still have the manager-owner, especially in small businesses, and even in large businesses, like the guy who runs CrossFit. He's still a manager-owner. But the idea is this separation. If I'm going to invest, it doesn't mean that I manage it. So these are some things that Weber developed. Again, early in the 1900s. Okay, let's move on. Taking too much time with Weber. Oh, now I need to adjust. Okay, let's talk about Henry Fayol. Henry Fayol, French guy, he was hired to downsize a company in France. There was a steel company, was doing very poorly, didn't invest in new technology, and the competition was just beating them up. And so Fayol was hired to downsize and cut employees, shut down factories, save as much money for the investors as possible. Instead, after 4 months of reviewing the situation, he goes to the board and says, here, this is how we save the company. And he did. In 10 years looking back, he says, the reason why I was so successful wasn't because I'm so great technically, but because I really am good at managing and administrative work. So he laid out 14 principles of management. Now, in your book, these are all listed on page 24. And so, or I'm sorry, 34. And that's in edition 7, but it's in the chapter under Exhibit 2.5. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but know that they're there, and you should read through them and understand what each of them mean. Okay, let's move on to Mary Parker Follett. I think it's Follett or Follett. One of the great things about Mary is she was looking at conflict as not a source of conflict is not a problem, but as an opportunity. And we kind of use that kind of speak in management now. Oh, this isn't a problem, this is an opportunity. Kind of tongue-in-cheek, we know it's a problem, it's going to be a pain in the butt to fix. And so let's get to it. Mary was looking at conflict and conflict between managers and employees, and trying to figure out how to best resolve things. When you think of, I want this, and you want something that seems to be in conflict with my interests, it seems like either I'm going to win and you're going to lose, or I'm going to lose and you're going to win. So there's going to be either a compromise where we both lose. And she didn't think that that was the appropriate way to look at things. She was the one that said, if we're creative, we can find or make the situation where I get what I want and you get what you want. And part of that is figuring out what we really want. It might be that what I want is not to look bad, or I want my product line to do well, to make their budget goals, and you want the same thing, and we might have a conflict where I have control over a work center that you need to be successful. So we both need this resource. How do we get to a situation where we both can be successful? And how can we do that creatively? Do we add an extra shift so that that work center can be funneled in off hours or something like that? So these are what Mary was really looking at. I mean, if you think about win-win, that wasn't created by Stephen Covey. That was created by Mary. Interactive conflict resolution. Have both parties indicate their preferences and then work together to find an alternative need that meets both. So here's some of Mary's great sayings. They're, again, in the book, but some of these things are really, really awesome in that we should use them now and think of how we manage and power and all these things. Mary was really ahead of her time. As conflict differences in the world, we can't avoid it. We should, I think, use it to work for us. Instead of condemning it, we should set it to work for us. This is constructive conflict. In fact, we'll get later into team development and team management, where we're looking to encourage certain types of conflict. We call them cognitive conflict. Now, there are disruptive types of conflict, which are more emotional, where we're disagreeing. Instead of logically approaching the conflict, we start criticizing each other and saying, oh, we're having this conflict because you're stupid, or because you're lazy, or something, right? Anyway, we'll get into that into team when we're doing team management stuff. Power. It seems to me that whereas power usually means power over, the power of some person or group over some other person or group, it is possible to develop the concept of power with a joint developed power, a coactive, not coercive power. So you can see this kind of cooperative idea. she has a really good quote on unity and here on coordination. The most important thing to remember about unity, that there is no such thing. There's only unifying. In other words, it's an action. It's a process that we continue to work at. You cannot get unity and expect it to last a day or 5 minutes. Every man in business should be taking part in a certain process, and that process is unifying. So we're trying to work together, and we have to continue always trying to work together to find common ground, to find synergies. Okay, some great stuff on Mary. Again, this is Exhibit 2.6. I encourage you to read over it.